My name is Jason Patent. I'm the director of the Center for Intercultural Leadership at International House here at Berkeley. And I wanted to share a story with you today about some intercultural learning that I've had the opportunity to do over the years that I hope will benefit you and also benefit your students. I've spent about 10 years off and on working in China, and a lot of that has been classroom time, teaching students from China, and also working with professors from Western countries teaching in China. And there's a pattern of misunderstanding that I've seen happen that I think an intercultural perspective might shed some light on. So if you think about human beings, a lot of the time somebody says something or does something, somebody that we know, and we're sure we know why they did it. We're sure that we know their intentions just based on the actions, and oftentimes we're wrong. So imagine when we're talking about intercultural interaction, how much more often we're going to be wrong because the culture gives us different sets of assumptions, different ways of interpreting people's actions. And so this is just that kind of an example. When I was managing faculty at one point, working in China, and these were Western faculty, a lot of them were from the United States, it was a fairly frequent occurrence that a professor would come to my office and say, my Chinese student is cheating. And we would talk about it. And the sequence of events usually went something like this. The professor was reading, and it sounded like this was native English, and they would discover that a student had copied some language from somebody wholesale into their paper. And using a Western logical system had reached the conclusion very quickly that this person was academically dishonest, which makes complete sense inside of a Western context. There is, however, a different cultural logic at play here. And when we're in the midst of judging based on stereotypes, which is effectively what this is, completely natural and understandable that we would do so, it doesn't allow us to actually inquire into what that cultural context might be. The logic goes something like this. I have an idea, but it's not really my idea, and somebody has already expressed it, and they did it way better than I could already do it, so I'm just going to take their language and put it in here. It has to do with a much more collective sense of ownership of what we call intellectual property, which is very much an individual thing in the West, and a whole bunch of other cultural assumptions as well. Now, I'm not saying, especially here at a university in the United States, that we should adopt a Chinese way of doing this. What I am saying is that we stand to learn a lot more and to serve our students much better if we can recognize the stereotype that's there, question the stereotype, and then engage our students from a standpoint of our own humility and our own curiosity. If we do that, and we can uncover what that cultural logic is, help the students see that that's where they're coming from and how that doesn't fit inside of our learning context here, or our legal context, which is crucial as well, because students can get in big trouble for this. Then we stand to help our students and serve our students ultimately a lot more effectively than if we're just going blindly from a stereotype. So much of this just has to do with awareness. Once we can bring awareness to what our own biases are and what biases of others might be that are based on culture, we can begin and carry out a conversation where we end up learning things we would not have learned otherwise, where we end up growing and we end up being more successful.